The stars have always been patient teachers. They burn for billions of years, indifferent to the civilizations that rise and fall beneath their ancient light, and they keep their secrets close. I have watched them for 700 years now, first as a young strategist aboard my father's observation vessel, then as fleet commander of the Keth'voran Dominion, and finally as this broken thing I have become, a witness to the end of everything I once believed eternal. My name is Keth'voran, and I am tired in ways that transcend the physical. The exhaustion lives in my bones, in the hollow spaces where hope once resided, in the memories of fleets that no longer exist and worlds that have gone silent. I am the last of the High Strategic Council, the final voice of an empire that spanned 9,000 years and touched the edges of 3 galaxies. And I am here, on a human station, because there is nowhere else left to go. The observation deck is quiet. Through the reinforced glass, I can see the nebula we once called the Cradle of Ascension, a stellar nursery where we first learned to fold space and conquer the distances between stars. Now it burns with the wrong colors, corrupted by weapons that should never have existed. And somewhere in that corrupted light, the last of my people are dying. The hegemony came from the dark spaces between galaxies. We do not know what they are truly, only that they consume, only that they adapt, only that in 300 years of war, we have never once seen them retreat. I remember when we first detected their approach. The HFY Dominion controlled 800 inhabited worlds then, with fleets numbering in the millions of vessels. Our technology was refined over millennia of careful advancement. We had solved the problems of faster-than-light travel, of energy generation, of biological enhancement. We considered ourselves the guardians of a significant portion of the known universe. We were arrogant. We were so terribly, fatally arrogant. The door behind me opens with a soft hiss, and I do not turn. I know the sound of human footsteps by now, lighter than ours, with a different rhythm. Everything about them is different, though I did not always see it that way. Commander Vorn. The voice belongs to Captain Sarah Chen. She is small by Keth'voran standards, barely reaching my lower chest, with dark hair and eyes that seem to absorb light rather than reflect it. She moves like water, smooth, unhurried, always finding the path of least resistance. I have watched her command this station for 3 months now, and I still cannot read her. Captain Chen, I reply, my voice carrying the characteristic resonance of my species. You do not need to check on me. I am simply remembering. She steps up beside me, her hands clasped behind her back in that posture all human military personnel seem to adopt when they are thinking. For a long moment she says nothing, simply watching the nebula burn alongside me. The 7th Fleet made contact 4 hours ago, she finally says. They're holding at the Kessler Line. The Kessler Line, a human designation for a defensive position we Keth'voran would have called the Last Gate. It guards the approach to the core systems of what remains of the Dominion, perhaps 30 worlds now, huddled together like frightened children in the dark. How long can they hold? I ask, though I already know the answer. Our analysts estimate 72 hours, maybe less. I close my eyes. 72 hours. 17 billion lives remaining under Keth'voran protection. 40 million soldiers in the 7th Fleet, most of them knowing they will not survive the week. And here I stand, in the station of a species we once dismissed as barely sapient. We never should have come to you.
I say quietly. We brought this war to your doorstep. We should have died alone.
Captain Chen does not respond immediately. When she does, her voice carries something I cannot quite identify. You came to us because you had nowhere else to go. There's no shame in that.
There is shame in arrogance, I reply, and the words taste bitter on my tongue. 50 years ago, when your species first achieved interstellar travel, our council debated whether to exterminate you before you could spread.
I feel her stiffen slightly beside me, but her voice remains level. I know. We found the records.
This surprises me enough to turn and look at her directly. You knew? And yet you still?
Took in your refugees? Provided medical care for your wounded, let you rest in our stations while your people die fighting a war that isn't ours? She meets my gaze steadily. Yes, we knew.
Why? She turns back to the window, and for a moment, her reflection overlaps with the burning nebula beyond. Because we know what it's like to face extinction, Commander. We know what it's like to stand alone against something bigger than yourself. And because deciding to help someone based on whether they've always been kind to you is a luxury species facing annihilation can't afford.
I have no response to this. The Velithari would not have shown such mercy. We would have watched humanity burn with cold satisfaction, seeing it as the natural consequence of their inferior development. We would have called it justice.
We would have been wrong.
The station around us hums with a constant, subtle vibration. Life support, artificial gravity, thousands of small systems working in concert to maintain a bubble of survivability in the void. It is not an impressive station by Velithari standards. The architecture is functional rather than beautiful. The technology straightforward rather than elegant. When we first arrived here 3 months ago, I remember thinking how primitive it all seemed.
Now I see it differently. There is a kind of honesty in human construction that we lost long ago. They build what they need, nothing more, and they maintain it with a dedication that borders on reverence. Everything works. Everything has a purpose. There is no waste, no ornamentation for the sake of displaying wealth or power.
I think perhaps that should have been our first warning.
Captain Chen, I say, breaking the silence that has stretched between us. May I ask you something personal?
You may ask.
When your people first looked up at the stars, before you had achieved space travel, before you knew what waited in the dark, did you imagine beings like us? Did you dream of ancient civilizations watching from above?
She considers this for a moment. We dreamed of many things. Gods, monsters, saviors. We wrote stories about meeting beings from other worlds for centuries before we actually did. Some of those stories were hopeful. Others were less so.
And when you finally met us? When you discovered that the universe was not empty?
A slight smile crosses her face, though it does not reach her eyes. We were disappointed, Commander. We had hoped you would be wiser than us.
The words strike deeper than she likely intends. We were not wiser. We were simply older, and we mistook age for wisdom, technology for enlightenment, power for righteousness. The hegemony taught us the truth of our limitations, and the lesson came with a price measured in billions of lives.
The Dominion's first response to the hegemony incursion involved 43 million warships, I tell her, the words coming slowly, painfully. It was the largest fleet action in our recorded history. We had planned for decades, modeled every scenario, prepared for every contingency. Our strategists were the finest minds of 9,000 years of civilization.
What happened?
We lost. Completely. Utterly. The hegemony adapted to every tactic within hours, sometimes within minutes. Weapons that should have been decisive were neutralized. Strategies that had never failed were anticipated and countered. In 72 hours, 31 million ships were destroyed. The remainder scattered, broken, unable to regroup.
Captain Chen's expression does not change, but I see something shift in her posture. She is listening differently now, not with sympathy, but with calculation. There is a sharpness behind her calm exterior that I have noticed before, but never quite understood.
You said they adapt, she says. How quickly?
Faster than we can respond. We develop a new weapon system, and within days they have countered it. We devise a new tactical doctrine, and within weeks they have learned to predict our movements. It is as if they are learning from us, absorbing our knowledge and turning it against us in real time.
Networked intelligence?
I nod slowly. That is our assumption. The hegemony does not appear to have individual decision-makers in the way we understand them. They function as a single distributed consciousness, sharing information instantaneously across their entire force structure. Interesting. The word is neutral, almost casual, but there is weight behind it that I cannot quite parse.
Interesting, I repeat, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Captain, we are describing an enemy that has consumed 400 of our worlds, killed over 100 billion of our people, and shows no sign of slowing or stopping. We are describing the end of everything.
I understand, Commander. I'm not dismissing your losses. I'm trying to understand the enemy. To what end? Your people have no warships, no military fleet to speak of. You have exploration vessels and cargo haulers. The hegemony could consume your entire civilization in a matter of weeks once they finish with us.
Captain Chen turns to face me fully, and for the first time I see something behind her careful mask. It is not fear, not quite. It is something closer to resolve, though there is a coldness to it that makes me uneasy.
Commander Vorn, may I show you something? I hesitate, uncertain what she intends. If you wish. She gestures for me to follow and leads me out of the observation deck through corridors that pulse with the quiet hum of human technology. The station is busier than I expected. Humans moving with purpose, speaking in low tones, carrying equipment I do not recognize. There is an energy here that feels different from the despair I have grown accustomed to.
We enter a lift, and Chen inputs a code I cannot see. The descent takes longer than I expected, carrying us deep below the main station levels, into sections I did not know existed. When the doors open, I stop breathing.
The chamber before us stretches further than I can see, a vast space carved into an asteroid, filled with ships. Not the small vessels I have seen humans operate, not the utilitarian transports and modest stations that dot their territory. These are warships, hundreds of them, their hulls dark and angular, their lines suggesting speed and violence and purpose.
What is this?
I whisper. This is the 3rd Reserve Fleet, Chen replies calmly. One of 17 currently stationed within response distance of your border.
I turn to stare at her, my mind struggling to process what I am seeing. You told us you had no military. You told the Galactic Council that humanity was a peaceful species, focused on exploration and trade.
We never said we had no military, Commander. We said we preferred peace. There's a difference.
I look back at the fleet, the impossible hidden fleet, and feel something shifting in understanding of the species I thought I knew.
The ships are not as large as Velethri capital vessels, but there are so many of them, and they are built with a uniformity that speaks to industrial capacity I never suspected.
How long have you been building these?
Since the day we achieved interstellar travel. Chen's voice is quiet. We found the records of your debates about our extermination, Commander. We found evidence of 17 other species that achieved spaceflight and then disappeared. We drew our own conclusions.
You were afraid of us.
We were afraid of the universe. It's different. She begins walking along a gantry that overlooks the assembly bay, and I follow, my mind reeling. We came from a world where everything was trying to kill us. We evolved as prey animals who learned to become predators. We developed intelligence because we needed to outsmart things that were faster and stronger than us. And when we finally looked up at the stars, we saw the same pattern we had always known, a universe of predators and prey, and no guarantee of which we would be.
So you prepared for war.
We prepared for survival. War is just one of the shapes survival takes.
We reach a viewing platform that overlooks the central assembly area. Below us, humans move among the ships with practiced efficiency, performing maintenance, loading supplies, running diagnostics. Everything is calm, organized, professional. There is no panic here, no desperation, just quiet, methodical preparation.
The hegemony will detect this facility, I say. When they finish with the Dominion, they will come here, and they will find you.
Yes, we're counting on it.
I turn to look at her sharply. You want them to find you?
We want them to underestimate us, Commander, the same way you did. There is no malice in her voice, only statement of fact. For 50 years, we have watched your war with the hegemony. We have analyzed every battle, studied every adaptation, mapped every pattern in their behavior. We have run more simulations than you can possibly imagine, and we have learned something important.
What?
The hegemony learns from conflict. They absorb tactical doctrine, adapt to weapons systems, counter strategic thinking. They are, in a sense, a perfect mirror of their enemies. Whatever you bring against them, they become the answer to it.
Yes, this is why we cannot defeat them.
Captain Chen shakes her head slowly. No, Commander. This is why you cannot defeat them. You have been fighting the same way for 9,000 years. Your tactics evolve, your technology improves, but the fundamental assumptions underlying your approach to warfare have not changed since you first conquered the stars. The hegemony has had 3 centuries to learn you, to understand you, to become the perfect counter to everything you are.
And you believe you are different?
I believe we are untested. She leans on the railing, looking down at the fleet below. The hegemony has never fought humans. They have no data on our tactics, our strategies, our decision-making patterns. They do not know how we think, how we adapt, how we respond to existential threats.
They will learn. They always learn.
Yes, they will. A slight smile crosses her face. But so will we. And we learn faster than anything else in the known universe.
I want to dismiss this as arrogance, the same fatal confidence that doomed the Dominion, but something in her tone gives me pause. There is no boasting here, no chest-beating declaration of superiority. She speaks as if stating simple facts. As if describing the color of the sky or the rotation of planets. You've never been in a real war, I say finally. Your species has been spacefaring for only 50 years. You have no experience with the kind of conflict the hegemony brings. No interstellar war, she agrees.
but war itself. Commander, our species has been at war with itself for our entire existence. We have fought over resources, territory, ideology, religion, pride. We have developed weapons capable of sterilizing our own home world a dozen times over. We have practiced the art of killing on a scale you cannot imagine.
That is not a point of pride.
No, it's not. It's a statement of fact. She straightens up, and there is something hard in her eyes now. We are not proud of what we are, Commander. We know what we are capable of. We have spent centuries trying to become better, trying to rise above our nature. But when something threatens our survival, when we face extinction, we become what we need to become. And what we become is something the universe has never seen before.
The words hang in the air between us, and I realize with a sudden chill that I am afraid, not of the hegemony in this moment, but of the small human woman standing before me. There is something in her calm certainty that speaks to depths I have not glimpsed until now.
Your ships, I say slowly. How many do you have?
Enough. Captain Chen, we have enough, Commander. That's all you need to know for now. She turns away from the railing. We're going to help you. We're going to save what remains of your people, but we're going to do it our way, and you're going to have to trust us. Trust you? After you've hidden all of this from us? After you've deceived the entire galaxy about your capabilities?
Yes, she meets my gaze without flinching, because the alternative is extinction, yours and ours.
There is nothing I can say to this. She is right. The Dominion has no options left, no leverage, no position from which to negotiate. We are refugees at the mercy of a species we once considered destroying. The irony is not lost on me.
What do you need from us? I ask finally.
Everything. Every tactical report, every battle recording, every piece of data you have on the hegemony. We need to understand how they think, how they adapt, how they prioritize targets. We need to know their patterns.
We've been sharing intelligence with your government for months.
Official intelligence. Filtered. Curated. We need the raw data. The defeats you're ashamed of, the strategies that failed catastrophically, the moments when your commanders made mistakes. She pauses. We need to understand how you lose, Commander, because that's what the hegemony has learned, and we need to learn it too.
The request cuts deep. She is asking me to expose the failures of my civilization, to lay bare our humiliations and defeats before a species we once looked down upon. Every instinct I have rebels against it.
But those instincts led us to this moment, broken, dying, begging for help from those we dismissed. Perhaps it is time to let go of instincts that no longer serve us.
I will give you everything, I say. But I have a condition.
Name it. When you engage the hegemony, I want to be there. I want to see what you become. Captain Chen studies me for a long moment, and I see something that might be respect flickering in her dark eyes. Done. The days that follow are a blur of activity. I spend hours with human analysts, military theorists, and artificial intelligences of stunning sophistication. They absorb the data I provide with an intensity that borders on obsession, asking questions I never thought to consider, probing the gaps in our understanding of the hegemony.
The humans think differently than we do. I realize this slowly through 1,000 small interactions that gradually reshape my understanding. Where Velethari strategists seek elegant solutions, optimal outcomes, perfect applications of force, humans seem to embrace chaos.
They plan for failure. They assume their first approach will be wrong and build systems to adapt in real time. They think in probabilities rather than certainties.
And they are paranoid on a level that defies belief.
"Tell me about the Battle of Varoth Prime," asks a young human analyst named Thomas. We are in a small conference room, surrounded by holographic displays showing hegemony movement patterns.
It was a defensive action, I reply. The hegemony attacked with approximately 2 million vessels. We had fortified the system with deep space defenses, orbital platforms, and a garrison fleet of 300,000 ships.
You lost.
Yes. Within 6 hours.
Walk me through the timeline.
I do, recounting the battle from memory. The initial engagement at the outer perimeter, the surprisingly rapid degradation of our sensor networks, the coordinated strikes on our command vessels, the systematic dismantling of our defensive grid.
Thomas listens without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a small device. When I finish, he is quiet for a moment.
Your command structure was hierarchical, he says finally. Central coordination with subordinate commanders executing pre-planned responses to anticipated scenarios.
It is the optimal organizational structure for coordinating large-scale fleet actions.
It's the optimal structure for enemies who don't adapt in real time. Thomas pulls up a display showing the battle's progression. The hegemony identified and eliminated your command vessels in the first 20 minutes. After that, your fleet continued executing pre-planned maneuvers even as conditions changed. You were fighting a battle that had already ended.
Our commanders were following established doctrine. That's the problem. The hegemony learned your doctrine. They knew what you would do before you did it. He leans forward. How do your ships communicate during battle? Quantum-entangled relay networks. Instantaneous, uninterceptable, unlimited range.
Centralized relay points or distributed architecture?
Centralized. The command vessel maintains the primary relay node, with backup coordination from secondary flagships.
Thomas nods slowly, his expression unreadable. So when the command vessel is destroyed, communication is disrupted across the entire fleet.
Temporarily. The backup systems take time to activate, time you don't have when fighting an enemy that adapts in seconds. He makes another note. Your ships, do they have autonomous decision-making capability?
To a limited degree, they can execute pre-programmed responses to standard tactical situations. But they can't improvise. They can't deviate from doctrine. They can't make decisions their commanders wouldn't approve of.
Why would we want them to? Coordination requires standardization. You cannot fight as a unified force if every ship is making independent decisions.
Thomas looks at me with an expression I have come to recognize, the particular blend of patience and intensity that humans adopt when they are seeing something you have missed.
Commander, have you ever watched birds fly in a flock, or fish move in a school?
I am familiar with the phenomenon.
No central coordination, no command structure, no pre-planned maneuvers. Just thousands of individual organisms, each making independent decisions based on simple rules and local information. And yet they move as one, responding to threats faster than any centralized system could manage.
You are suggesting we abandon unified command?
I'm suggesting that your concept of unified command might be the vulnerability the hegemony is exploiting. He stands up, pacing the small room.
The hegemony is a networked intelligence. They share information instantly across their entire force structure. They see your centralized coordination as a weakness. Take out the center, and the rest collapses.
But a decentralized force would be chaos. Ships firing randomly, tactics in conflict, no overall strategy?
Unless each ship already knows the strategy. Unless the strategy is simple enough to be executed independently, with local adaptation based on changing conditions. Thomas stops pacing and faces me. The hegemony adapts to what they see. They learn from direct engagement, but they can't adapt to something that changes faster than they can observe it.
I am beginning to understand what he is suggesting, and it terrifies me. Not because it is wrong, but because it represents a fundamental rejection of everything the Velethari military has believed for millennia.
You want to fight unpredictably, I say slowly. You want to make decisions the enemy cannot anticipate, because even you do not know what you will do until you do it.
Not entirely. We want to set the boundaries, the mission parameters, the rules of engagement, the overall objective. But within those boundaries, we want each unit to be free to adapt, improvise, and exploit opportunities as they arise.
It would be chaos.
It would be evolution. Thomas sits back down across from me. The hegemony is one intelligence, Commander. That's their strength, but it's also their limitation. They can only adapt to what the whole organism perceives. They can only implement solutions the whole organism agrees on. They're fast, but they're also singular.
And humans are not singular.
Humans are chaos. We're 8 billion individual perspectives, 8 billion different ways of thinking about problems, 8 billion potential adaptations to any given situation. When we work together, we don't merge into one mind. We remain individuals, arguing and disagreeing and pushing against each other. And that friction, that conflict, that constant challenging of assumptions, that's where new ideas come from.
I think about the centuries of war between human nations, the endless conflicts that marked their history even before they reached the stars. I had always seen it as a sign of their primitive nature, their inability to achieve the unified civilization the Velethari had maintained for millennia. Now I wonder if I was looking at it wrong.
The Seventh Fleet has fallen.
The words reach me 3 days later, spoken by a Velethari communications officer who arrived on the station with the latest wave of refugees. His voice is hollow, empty of everything except the words themselves.
Fallen? I repeat, though I know what he means.
Destroyed. Completely. The hegemony broke through the Kessler line 18 hours ago. There was no organized retreat. No survivors have been recovered.
40 million soldiers, gone in less than a day. And with them, the last substantial defensive force between the hegemony and our remaining worlds.
How long until they reach the core systems?
At their current rate of advance, approximately 120 hours.
5 days. 5 days until the end of the Velethari civilization.
I find Captain Chen in the station's operations center, surrounded by holographic displays showing force dispositions across the entire region. The room is filled with humans, all working with the quiet intensity I have come to associate with their species.
The Seventh Fleet is gone, I tell her.
We know. She does not look up from the display she is studying. We detected the engagement's conclusion about an hour before your messenger arrived.
The hegemony will be at our core worlds in 5 days.
We know that too. Captain Shen.
Commander Vorn. She finally turns to face me, and there is something different in her expression. The mask of calm is still there, but behind it, I see something burning. We are ready.
Ready for what? To evacuate? To flee?
To fight.
She gestures to the main display, and it shifts to show a tactical overview of the region. I see the hegemony's advance, a dark tide spreading across the star map, consuming everything in its path. And I see something else, something I do not understand at first.
Points of light scattered across human space, hundreds of them, thousands, all moving toward a single convergence point.
What am I looking at?
The combined response force of the United Human Nations, 17 fleet reserves, 43 planetary defense squadrons, and approximately 600 independent volunteer flotillas. Total estimated strength, 4.2 million vessels.
I stare at the display, unable to process what I am seeing. That's impossible. Your species has only been spacefaring for 50 years. You cannot have built...
We have been preparing for extinction since before we left our homeworld, Commander. We have been building since the day we learned we were not alone. Chen's voice carries a weight I have not heard before. This is not a reaction to the hegemony. This is the response we have been preparing for since we first looked up at the stars and understood what might be looking back.
Even if you have 4 million ships, it will not be enough. The hegemony has already proven it can destroy fleets of that size. They adapt, they learn,
They have never thought humans. She cuts me off, and there is iron in her words. They have learned from you, Commander. They have spent 3 centuries adapting to the Velethari way of war. They know your tactics, your strategies, your decision-making patterns. They have become the perfect counter to everything you are.
And you think you will be different? I know we will be different. She pulls up another display, a simulation of some kind, showing fleet movements I cannot follow. We have spent 50 years studying the hegemony through your war. We have analyzed every engagement, mapped every adaptation, modeled every possible response, and we have developed something we call the Hydra Doctrine.
The Hydra? A creature from our mythology. A serpent with many heads. When you cut one off, 2 more grow back. She traces a pattern on the display. The Velethari fight with unified command, one head coordinating the entire body. The hegemony learned to cut that head off. We fight differently. The simulation begins to move, and I watch in growing confusion. The human fleet does not behave like any fleet I have ever seen. There is no central formation, no command hierarchy, no coordinated maneuvers. Ships move in small clusters, seemingly independently, engaging and disengaging in patterns I cannot predict.
This is chaos, I say.
This is evolution in real time. Chen manipulates the display, and I see the hegemony force responding, adapting as they always do, learning the patterns of attack and developing counters. But before they can fully adapt, the human tactics shift. The small clusters reconfigure, adopt new approaches, abandon strategies that are being countered, and develop new ones on the fly.
Each ship has full autonomous authority within its mission parameters, Chen explains. Each captain can adapt their tactics based on local conditions, and they're all sharing information in real time, not through a central command,
but through distributed networks that have no single point of failure.
The hegemony will learn. They will adapt to your adaptations.
They'll try, but we adapt faster. She pauses the simulation. The hegemony is one mind, Commander. When they adapt, the entire organism has to reach consensus, implement the change, and coordinate the response. That takes time. Microseconds, maybe seconds, but time nonetheless.
And humans? Each ship is a mind. Each captain is making independent decisions at the speed of thought. We don't need consensus. We just need to keep changing faster than they can follow.
I look at the frozen display, at the chaotic swirl of human ships engaged in a dance I cannot comprehend. It violates everything I understand about warfare. It should not work. It should be suicide.
And yet, looking at the simulation results, I see that the human fleet is winning, not through superior firepower or numbers, but through something else, something I do not have a word for.
This is your plan, I ask, to throw chaos at an enemy that feeds on order?
This is part of our plan. Chen dismisses the simulation. Commander, I need you to understand something. We are not going to win this war through any single strategy or weapon or technology. The hegemony adapts to specific threats. They cannot adapt to change itself.
You cannot sustain chaos indefinitely. Eventually, patterns will emerge. Eventually, they will learn. Then we'll change again, and again, and again, for as long as it takes.
How long can you maintain that? How long before your forces become exhausted, before your captains run out of new ideas, before the chaos collapses into order?
Captain Chen looks at me, and for the first time I see a true smile on her face. It is not a warm expression. It is the smile of someone who knows something you do not.
Commander, let me tell you about human history.
She leads me to a smaller room, away from the bustle of the operations center. There, she pulls up a display showing a world, a small blue planet circling a yellow star.
Earth, our home world. For most of our existence as a species, we were prey. We had no claws, no fangs, no venom. We were slow, weak, and poorly adapted to our environment. We survived through cooperation and intelligence, but for hundreds of thousands of years, we were just another animal struggling to avoid extinction.
The display shifts, showing images I do not understand at first. Humans fighting, dying, vast armies clashing across continental landscapes.
Then we developed civilization, and we turned our survival instincts on each other. We fought wars over territory, resources, ideology, religion, anything and everything. We developed weapons of increasing sophistication, each one designed to counter the weapons that came before. We spent thousands of years in a constant arms race against ourselves.
This is not reassuring. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be instructive. The display shifts again, showing something that makes my blood run cold. A mushroom cloud rising over a ruined city. In the 20th century of our calendar, we developed weapons capable of destroying our entire civilization. We came within minutes of using them on multiple occasions. We lived for decades with the knowledge that at any moment we could render our own species extinct.
And yet, you survived.
We adapted. We learned. We developed systems to prevent accidental annihilation, and we built cultures of deterrence and restraint. But we never forgot what we were capable of. We never stopped preparing for the worst.
The display shifts to show the stars, humanity's expansion into space, the colonies, the stations, the fleets I had just seen. When we reached the stars, we found a universe that confirmed our worst fears, species that would exterminate us without hesitation, civilizations that saw us as pests to be eliminated, a cosmos that was every bit as hostile as the world that forged us. Chen turns to face me directly.
The hegemony is not new to us, Commander. They are the predator we have always known was out there, the monster in the dark we have been preparing to face since before we knew what form it would take.
You cannot have prepared for something you did not know existed.
We prepared for everything, every threat we could imagine, and many we couldn't. We assumed the universe was hostile, and we built accordingly. She pauses. You called us primitive, insignificant. You debated whether to exterminate us before we could spread. And all that time, we were watching you, learning from you, and preparing for the day when something would come that you couldn't stop.
I feel a chill that has nothing to do with the station's temperature. You expected this.
We expected something. The hegemony is just the specific form it took. Chen's expression is unreadable. We are not a peaceful species, Commander. We are a species that has learned to keep its violence in check, to channel it productively, to save it for when it's truly needed. But that violence is always there, underneath, waiting.
And now you're going to unleash it. Now we're going to survive, whatever it takes.
The human fleet arrives at the convergence point over the next 72 hours. I watch from the observation deck as ship after ship drops out of faster-than-light travel, each one taking its place in a formation that seems random, but must have some underlying logic I cannot perceive.
They are not beautiful ships. The Velethari build our vessels with an eye toward aesthetics as well as function. Sweeping curves, harmonious proportions, designs that reflect our civilization's appreciation for form. Human ships are angular, brutalist, purely utilitarian. They look like weapons, nothing more.
And there are so many of them.
Captain Chen finds me as the last elements of the fleet arrive. We move in 6 hours, she says. The hegemony has begun their assault on Velethari Prime.
Velethari Prime, the heart of our civilization. The world where I was born, where my family lived, where 7 billion of my people now face annihilation.
We cannot reach them in time, I say hollowly. The distance.
We can. Chen's voice carries absolute certainty. We've been holding back our full FTL capabilities. The hegemony thinks they know how fast human ships can travel. They're wrong.
You've been concealing your technology? We've been concealing everything, Commander. Every capability, every weapon, every trick we've developed over 50 years of preparing for this moment. She gestures toward the fleet. The hegemony has spent 3 centuries learning to fight the Velethari. They have adapted to everything you could throw at them, but they have never seen humans fight. They don't know what we can do.
I look at her, this small, calm woman who speaks of unleashing hidden forces with the same tone she might use to discuss supply requisitions. Why tell me this now?
Because I want you to understand what you're about to see, and because you deserve to know that we're not going to hold back. She meets my gaze steadily. The Velethari fought the hegemony with honor, with restraint, with respect for the rules of war you developed over millennia. It was noble, it was principled, and it got your people killed. We fought as we have always fought. Yes, and that's why you lost. Chen's voice is quiet but implacable. We won't make the same mistake. We are going to fight dirty, Commander. We're going to cheat and lie and exploit every advantage we can find. We're going to do things that will horrify you. And when it's over, the hegemony will be destroyed, and your people will survive. At what cost? Whatever cost is necessary. She turns to leave, then pauses. You asked to be there when we engage. The offer still stands, but be warned, what you see may change how you view humanity forever.
I should refuse. I should stay here, in the safety of the station, and wait for news of another defeat. That would be the sensible choice, the choice that acknowledges reality.
But I am tired of being sensible. I am tired of watching my people die from a distance. And I am curious, terribly, fearfully curious, to see what humanity becomes when they stop pretending to be harmless.
I will come, I say. The bridge of the human flagship, UNS Constellation, is smaller than I expected. Where Velathari command vessels feature vast ceremonial spaces designed to project power and authority, this bridge is cramped, efficient, packed with displays and crew members. There is no throne for the commander, no elevated platform from which to survey the fleet, just a simple chair in the center of the room, occupied by Admiral Sarah Chen, promoted, I learned, just 3 days ago.
She does not look like an admiral. She looks like the station commander I met weeks ago, calm and unreadable, absorbed in data scrolling across her personal display. But around her, the bridge hums with quiet tension. Everyone knows what is coming.
Fleet status, Chen says.
All elements report ready, Admiral. 4,217,000 vessels in formation. All captains have received the Hydra parameters and confirmed autonomous authority.
Hegemony main force engaged with Velathari defensive installations around Prime. Estimated enemy strength, 6 million vessels. They have committed their full regional force to the assault.
6 million. The hegemony has never concentrated such numbers in a single engagement before. They are confident, I realize. They believe this will be the final battle, the moment when the Velathari civilization ends. They have no idea what is coming.
Time to contact?
At Enhanced FTL, 14 minutes.
Enhanced FTL. Even now, watching the human fleet prepare to engage, I struggle to comprehend the scale of the deception they have maintained. For 50 years, they have hidden their true capabilities, showing the galaxy a mask of peaceful mediocrity while building this force behind it.
Admiral Chen, I say quietly, how did you keep this secret? How did no one see what you were building?
She glances at me, and there is something like dark amusement in her expression. We showed people what they expected to see, Commander. A young species just finding their feet among the stars, peaceful, harmless, focused on trade and exploration. Everyone was so busy looking down on us that they never thought to look too closely.
We underestimated you. Everyone underestimated us. Even our own people for a while. She turns back to her display. But that ends today. After this, the galaxy will know what humanity really is.
And what is that?
She does not answer immediately. When she does, her voice is quiet, meant only for me. We are the species that refuses to die, Commander, no matter what it takes. No matter what we have to become.
The countdown continues. 12 minutes. 10. 8.
I watch the human crew prepare for battle, struck by how different their rituals are from ours. There are no invocations of ancestral glory, no ceremonial declarations of readiness. Just quiet professionalism, final checks of systems, brief words exchanged between friends and colleagues.
At 5 minutes, Admiral Chen stands.
All hands, this is the Admiral. Her voice carries through the ship and, I know, to every vessel in the fleet. In 5 minutes, we engage the enemy. Many of you will not survive the next few hours.
I won't lie to you about that." She pauses, and I see her expression harden. "The hegemony has consumed 400 worlds. They have killed over 100 billion sentient beings. They have faced the finest military minds of a civilization 9,000 years old, and they have adapted to every strategy, countered every weapon, defeated every fleet sent against them.
They have never faced us.
We are not going to fight fair. We are not going to fight with honor. We are going to fight to win, using every trick, every deception, every advantage we can find. Some of what we do today will horrify our allies. Some of it will horrify ourselves.
But when the sun sets on this day, the hegemony will know that they have finally met a species as ruthless, as adaptable, and as absolutely unwilling to die as they are. And they will learn, as every predator in our history has learned, that humanity is not prey.
All captains have autonomous authority within Hydra parameters. Trust your instincts, adapt, survive, and make them regret the day they decided to threaten our future. Earth remembers. Earth endures. Earth will prevail.
The countdown reaches 0. The stars twist, and we are there.
The first thing I see is my homeworld, burning. The orbital defense platforms are shattered, the remains of our last fleet scattered across space in drifting clouds of debris. The hegemony swarm is everywhere, millions of vessels, moving with the coordinated malevolence that has destroyed every force we sent against them.
And then the human fleet arrives.
I have seen fleet actions before. I have commanded battles involving millions of ships, coordinated maneuvers that unfolded across light hours of space. I thought I understood what war looked like on a galactic scale.
I understood nothing.
The human ships do not form battle lines. They do not advance in coordinated waves. They scatter, breaking into thousands of independent clusters that dive into the hegemony swarm from every conceivable angle. There is no discernible pattern, no central coordination I can identify.
What are they doing? I ask, unable to keep the disbelief from my voice.
Dying, Admiral Chen replies calmly, for about the next 30 seconds.
I watch as the hegemony responds, their swarm shifting to engage the attacking human vessels. The aliens adapt instantly, redirecting forces to counter the scattered assault, targeting the vulnerable clusters with overwhelming firepower. Human ships die by the hundreds, then by the thousands. And then something changes. The human clusters that survive the first engagement do not continue their original tactics. They shift, each one independently adopting new approaches based on what they learned in those first deadly seconds. The second wave of attacks comes from different angles, with different timing, using different weapons configurations.
The hegemony adapts again, countering the new tactics. The humans change again, and again, and again.
I watch in growing amazement as the battle unfolds. The hegemony is learning. They always learn, but the humans are learning faster. Each engagement provides data that is instantly shared across the fleet, analyzed, and incorporated into new tactics. There is no central authority dictating responses. Each captain is making independent decisions, and somehow, impossibly, those independent decisions are combining into a coherent strategy.
They can't keep up. I breathe.
No, Admiral Chen agrees. They can't.
The hegemony swarm is faltering. I can see it in their movements, a hesitation that was never there before, a lag between the humans' changes and their adaptation. They are still learning, still countering, but they are falling behind. The gap between each human shift and the hegemony response grows wider by the minute.
And then the humans bring out the weapons I have never seen.
A hegemony cluster is moving to intercept a group of human vessels when space itself seems to shatter around them. One moment, there are 40,000 enemy ships. The next, there is only twisted wreckage and a spreading cloud of exotic particles.
What was that?
Quantum disruptor. Experimental. Collapses local space-time into a brief singularity. Chen's voice is flat, clinical. The hegemony can't adapt to it because nothing survives long enough to transmit data about what happened.
Another cluster of hegemony ships simply stops moving, all of them simultaneously, as if someone has turned off a switch. Human vessels sweep through the paralyzed formation, destroying them at leisure.
Neural cascade emitter interferes with their distributed consciousness. They're still alive, but they can't think, can't communicate, can't function.
A massive hegemony command vessel, one of the largest I have ever seen, suddenly turns and begins firing on its own fleet. The ships around it scatter in confusion, some attacking the rogue vessel, others continuing their assault on human ships, their coordination shattered.
That one's a mimetic virus. We've been studying their communication protocols for years. Turns out, if you can get the right signal past their filters, you can make them believe anything.
I watch weapon after weapon deploy, each one different, each one targeting a different vulnerability of the hegemony's collective consciousness. The enemy adapts to some of them, develops counters, but by then, the humans have moved on to new weapons, new tactics, new angles of attack.
The hegemony is dying.
For the first time in 300 years, they are losing a battle they cannot adapt their way out of. Their swarm fragments, coordination breaking down as the human weapons exploit their networked nature. Individual clusters fight on, but without the unified intelligence that made them unstoppable. They are just ships, vulnerable, mortal, defeatable.
Admiral, a voice calls from the tactical station. Hegemony forces are attempting to disengage. They're pulling back toward the system's edge.
Do not let them. Chen's voice carries steel. All pursuit elements, engage. Nothing leaves this system. I turn to stare at her. You're going to hunt them down, even though they're retreating?
They're not retreating, Commander. They're regrouping. They're trying to get far enough away to re-establish coordination, analyze what they've learned, and develop counters. She meets my gaze without flinching. If we let them go, they will adapt. They will come back stronger. The only way to beat a learning enemy is to destroy them before they can learn.
That's extermination.
Yes. The single word hangs in the air between us. I see no hesitation in her eyes, no doubt, only the cold calculation of someone who has weighed the costs and made her choice.
They showed no mercy to your people, Commander. They showed no mercy to the 100 billion they have killed. They will show no mercy to humanity if we give them the chance to adapt. She turns back to the battle. We will not give them that chance.
The pursuit is methodical, relentless, and utterly without mercy. Human ships hound the fleeing hegemony vessels, hunting them down in small groups, destroying them before they can escape. There is no negotiation, no offer of surrender, no attempt at communication, only destruction.
By the time it ends 5 hours later, not a single hegemony vessel has escaped the system. 6 million ships, the largest force they had ever concentrated, wiped out to the last hull.
I stand on the bridge of the constellation, looking out at the aftermath. My homeworld still burns below us, the damage from the hegemony assault catastrophic. But it survives. The rescue operations are already beginning. Human medical ships descending to assist the wounded. Human engineers deploying to stabilize failing infrastructure.
We lost 400,000 ships, Admiral Chen says quietly, standing beside me. 1/10 of our fleet. Over 3 million humans dead.
And the hegemony lost everything.
In this system, yes, but they have more. We've confirmed at least 4 other major concentrations across the galaxy, and we don't know how many are in the dark spaces between stars. She turns to look at me. This was not the end, Commander. This was the beginning.
The beginning of what?
The hunt. Her expression is unreadable.
We're going to find every hegemony force in the galaxy, every world they've infested, every fleet they've hidden, every last remnant of their civilization. And we're going to destroy them all.
That could take centuries.
We're patient. A ghost of a smile crosses her face. We've been preparing for this for 50 years, Commander. We've built the infrastructure, the logistics, the industrial capacity for a sustained campaign across multiple galaxies. And we're not going to stop until the hegemony is nothing but a memory.
I think about the species I thought I knew, the primitive humans we once considered exterminating, the peaceful traders and explorers who seemed so harmless. I think about the hidden fleets, the concealed technology, the cold calculation behind every decision.
We never saw you, I say slowly. We looked right at you, and we never saw what you truly were.
No one did. Chen's voice carries something that might be sadness. We didn't want to be seen. We wanted to believe we had evolved past our nature, that we could be the peaceful explorers we pretended to be. But the universe wouldn't let us.
And now?
Now we are what we have to be. She looks out at the burning world below. We will save your people, Commander. We will rebuild your civilization. And when the hegemony is extinct, we will help you create a galaxy where no one has to face what you faced alone. Why? After how we treated you, after the contempt we showed, why would you do this?
Admiral Chen is quiet for a long moment. When she speaks, her voice is softer than I have ever heard it.
Because we know what it's like to be alone. We know what it's like to look up at the stars and see only threats and indifference. We know what it's like to survive by your fingernails, never knowing if tomorrow will bring extinction. She turns to face me fully. Your people looked down on us, Commander, but they also survived for 9,000 years in a hostile universe. They built a civilization that touched 3 galaxies.
They held the hegemony at bay for 3 centuries, buying time for younger species to grow strong.
We failed.
You endured. That's not failure. That's the hardest thing any species can do. She places her hand on my arm, a gesture of connection I did not expect. We are not saving you because you were kind to us. We are saving you because you deserve to survive. Because every species that faces the darkness and doesn't give up deserves the chance to see the dawn. I feel something shift in my chest, a loosening of the despair that has been my constant companion for years. It is not hope, not quite, but it is something close.
The galaxy will fear you now, I say. After today, everyone will know what humanity is capable of. They will not see the peaceful explorers anymore. They will see the hidden fleets, the terrible weapons, the capacity for total war.
Yes, they will. Chen's expression carries a weight of acceptance. We tried to be something better, Commander. We really did. But the universe kept showing us what happens to species that beat their swords into plowshares. So we kept our swords. We hid them. We pretended they didn't exist, but we kept them.
And now everyone knows.
Now everyone knows.
She looks out at the stars, the ancient stars that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Perhaps, once the hegemony is gone, we can try again. Perhaps we can become the peaceful species we wanted to be. But for now, we are what we need to be, the ones who don't let the darkness win.
The next months blur together in a series of battles, each one confirming what I witnessed at Velathari Prime. The human fleet spread across the galaxy, hunting the hegemony with a patience and persistence that borders on obsession. They do not negotiate, do not accept surrender, do not show mercy. Every hegemony force they find, they destroy.
And the hegemony, for all their adaptability, cannot keep up. I spend most of this time aboard human vessels, an observer and advisor as the campaign unfolds. I learn to understand their way of war, the controlled chaos, the individual initiative, the constant adaptation. It is everything the Velathari approach was not, and watching it work is both humbling and terrifying.
But it is the quiet moments that change me most, the meals shared with human officers, the conversations about their history and culture, the glimpses of the society behind the war machine. I learn about their art, their music, their stories. I learn about the monuments they built to remind themselves of their worst moments, not to celebrate them, but to ensure they never forget what they are capable of.
One evening, I am sharing dinner with Admiral Chen in her quarters. The campaign has been going well. 3 more major hegemony concentrations destroyed, the threat to Velathari space eliminated. But Chen seems tired in a way I have not seen before.
We received word from the Council today, she says, pushing food around her plate. The other species are concerned.
Concerned about the hegemony?
Concerned about us, she looks up at me. They've seen what we can do now. The hidden fleets, the weapons, the capacity for sustained warfare on a galactic scale. Some of them are wondering if we're as dangerous as the hegemony.
You saved them. You're saving the galaxy. We're killing the hegemony without mercy or negotiation. We're hunting them to extinction across 3 galaxies. Some of the elder species remember when they did similar things, and they remember what it cost them. Chen sets down her utensil. There are voices calling for humans to be contained after this is over. Limits on our fleet sizes, our technology, our expansion. That is madness. You are the only reason any of us are still alive. Fear is rarely rational, Commander. She smiles ruefully. The Velathari looked at us 50 years ago and saw a primitive species that might become a threat. Now the galaxy looks at us and sees a species that is a threat, not because of what we might become, but because of what we have shown ourselves to be. What will you do?
What we have always done. Survive. She leans back in her chair. We won't accept limits that compromise our security. We can't afford to. But we will try to show the galaxy that we're not their enemy, that the violence we have unleashed was a response to a threat, not a revelation of our true nature.
Was it not? A revelation, I mean? Chen is quiet for a long moment.
Maybe it was. Maybe this is what we are, a species of killers who learned to cooperate, predators who built civilizations, survivors who will do anything to keep surviving. She meets my gaze. But it's not all we are, Commander. We are also artists, dreamers, lovers. We create beauty as well as destruction. We reach for the stars not just because we fear what might come from them, but because we wonder what wonders they might hold.
The galaxy will not see that. They will see the fleets, the weapons, the extinction of the hegemony.
Then we will have to show them the rest, over time, through actions, not words. She stands up, moving to the window that looks out at the stars. The hegemony saw us as a threat to be eliminated. The elder species see us as dangerous children to be controlled. But neither of those views is complete. We are more than our capacity for violence. We are more than our will to survive.
What are you? She turns to look at me, and in her eyes I see something that transcends the cold calculation I have grown accustomed to. There is warmth there, and hope, and something that might be faith.
We are the species that refuses to give up on ourselves, on each other, on the possibility of a better future. She pauses. The hegemony tried to exterminate us. Instead, they united us. They reminded us what we fight for. And when this is over, when the last of them is gone, we will have the chance to build something new, something better.
You believe that is possible?
I have to believe it is possible. Otherwise, what's the point of surviving?
The hegemony falls in the 3rd year of the campaign. Their final stronghold, a system in the dark space between galaxies where they had first emerged, is found and destroyed. The last of their kind, a fragment of the once vast consciousness that had consumed 100 billion lives, is hunted down and eliminated without ceremony.
I am there for the end. I watch as the human fleet surrounds the last hegemony vessels, a pitiful remnant of the swarm that had seemed unstoppable, and I watch as they are destroyed. There is no satisfaction in it, no joy, only the grim completion of a necessary task. Afterward, I stand with Admiral Chen on the bridge of the Constellation, looking out at the void where the hegemony once waited.
It's done, she says. Yes, the word feels inadequate. 300 years of war ended in 3 years by a species the galaxy had barely noticed. What happens now?
Now we rebuild. Your civilization, ours, the galaxy. She turns to face me. The Council has agreed to a new framework, a unified defense pact, shared early warning systems, cooperative research into potential future threats. Humanity will be part of the galaxy now, not apart from it. And the concerns about human power? The calls for containment?
They remain. They will probably always remain to some degree, but they are balanced now by the recognition that the galaxy needs us, not as the hidden guardians we tried to be, but as active participants in collective security. She pauses. We're going to demobilize most of the fleet, return to the peaceful expansion we always preferred, but we will never again pretend to be harmless. That option is gone.
Do you regret it? Showing the galaxy what you truly are?
Chen is quiet for a long time, considering the question.
I regret that it was necessary. I regret the lives lost, the innocents surrendered, the future we might have had if the hegemony had never come. She looks out at the stars. But I do not regret surviving. I do not regret saving your people or the galaxy.
and I do not regret being what we needed to be when being anything else would have meant extinction.
The galaxy will never see you the same way.
No, but perhaps they will see us more clearly. A slight smile crosses her face. We were never the harmless explorers we pretended to be, Commander. We were survivors, carrying the scars of 1,000,000 years of evolution in a hostile universe. The mask is gone now. What remains is just us, the good and the bad, the violence and the hope, all of it.
Is that enough? It will have to be.
I think about the species I have come to know, the hidden depths I never suspected, the capacity for both terrible destruction and profound compassion. I think about the lessons they have taught me, and the lessons the galaxy will be learning for generations to come.
One human ship, I say quietly. That is how this all began. One human ship appeared on our sensors, and we debated whether to destroy it before your species could spread.
And if you had, the hegemony would have won. The galaxy would have fallen. I turned to look at her. One human ship appeared, and every battle plan failed. Not yours, ours. Every plan we had for dealing with the universe failed because we did not understand what we were looking at.
And now?
Now I understand. I feel something that might be peace settling over me. You are not the threat we feared, or the primitives we dismissed. You are something we never anticipated, a species that refuses to be what others expect, that adapts faster than the universe can challenge, that finds strength in the very chaos that should destroy you.
That sounds almost like a compliment. It is an acknowledgement of who you are, of what you have done, of the debt the galaxy owes to a species we once fought beneath our notice.
Admiral Chen is quiet for a moment. Then she extends her hand, a human gesture of connection and respect that I have learned to recognize.
The debt runs both ways, Commander. Your people bought us the time we needed with their sacrifice. The Velathari will be remembered as the shield that held the darkness at bay until help could arrive.
I take her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against my own. It is a small gesture, but it carries the weight of everything that has passed between our peoples.
What will you do now? She asks.
I will go home. What remains of it? I think of Velathari Prime, still rebuilding, still healing from the damage of the hegemony assault. I will help my people understand what has happened, what humanity truly is, and I will work to ensure that we never again make the mistake of underestimating a species based on how they appear.
And if you could go back, if you could speak to the council that debated whether to destroy that first human ship.
I consider the question carefully. The Velathari I was before the war would have had one answer. The Velathari I am now has another. I would tell them to look closer, to see past the primitive technology and the young civilization to what lies beneath. I would tell them that the universe is full of surprises and that the species who seem weakest may be hiding strengths beyond imagination.
I pause, feeling the weight of 700 years of life pressing down on me.
And I would tell them that when one human ship appears, every battle plan should fail. Not because humans are dangerous, but because the moment you think you understand them is the moment you have already lost. The stars wheel slowly past the window, ancient and patient, witness to the rise and fall of civilizations beyond counting. The hegemony is gone now, joining the long list of powers that thought themselves invincible until they met something they could not overcome.
The galaxy stretches on, vast and dangerous, full of wonders and horrors yet to be discovered.
And humanity moves through it, no longer hiding, no longer pretending to be something they are not. They build and explore and dream, as they always have. They laugh and love and create beauty in the darkness. And somewhere, in the quiet spaces of their souls, they keep their swords sharp, not because they want to use them, but because they remember what happens to those who forget how.
They are not the guardians the galaxy wanted, but they are the guardians the galaxy needed. One human ship appeared, and everything changed.
I watch the stars, and I wonder what else is out there, waiting to be discovered. I wonder what other surprises the universe holds, what other species might be hiding strengths beneath masks of weakness. I wonder what humanity will become in the centuries ahead as they continue to evolve and adapt and refuse to be defined by anyone's expectations.
But mostly, I wonder at the strange fortune that brought me here, a broken commander of a dying empire, given the chance to witness the birth of something new, something terrifying, something beautiful. The humans have a saying, "The stars are not afraid of the dark."
I think I finally understand what it means.
It means that survival is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear define you. It means that hope is not naivety, but defiance. It means that the universe can throw its worst at you, and you can still choose to light a candle against the void.
The hegemony tried to extinguish that candle. They failed. And now, standing here at the edge of a new era, watching the human fleet begin its long journey home, I realize that the light they carry is not just for themselves. It is for all of us, every species that has ever looked up at the stars and wondered if tomorrow would bring salvation or extinction. One human ship appeared. Every battle plan failed. And in the darkness that followed, the stars began to shine again.